Good afternoon, everyone. Before we begin, I want to briefly discuss the format for the status conference. The Commission is hosting the status conference through WebEx for the parties to the docket. Participants, members of the public, and interested stakeholders have also been invited to attend, but will not be allowed to participate unless otherwise allowed by me or the chair. To ensure we can hear everyone clearly, everyone will be muted to begin the status conference. At my direction, the host will unmute the parties who will then have the opportunity to introduce themselves and provide their statements. Okay, I'm going to call the status conference to order. Thank you for everyone for being here today. I'm Naomi Kauai, Commissioner, and I will be joined shortly by the Chair, Leo Suncheon, who's on his way. Today's status conference is being recorded, and a copy of the recording will be made available on the Commission's YouTube channel. The purpose of today's status conference is for the Commission to receive an update from Punaluʻu Water and Sanitation, or PWS, on its current financial situation and operational status, its willingness and ability to continue operations, and its long-term plans for ensuring continued service to customers. PWS has submitted a written update in this proceeding on April 30th, 2025. The Commission's objectives for today are to gather information to, 1, understand the current status of PWS's financial issues, 2, ascertain whether PWS will be able to continue operations even with a temporary rate increase, and 3, gather information to determine what next steps are needed to ensure customers continue to receive uninterrupted service. First, we will hear from PWS. Mr. Yamamoto, please introduce yourself and any others from your party and provide your opening statement, including an update on the following: PWS's current financial health and operational status, PWS's plans, including its willingness and ability to continue providing water and wastewater utility services, 3, any next steps needed for a long-term solution, and 4, your responses that were followed on April 30th, 2025, including but not limited to an update on the pending civil suits against Black Sands Beach LLC and how that impacts PWS's operations. I'd like to note for the record that the Chair, Leo Suncheon, has just joined us. Mr. Yamamoto, please start.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Kauai and Chair Asuncion, and good afternoon, everyone who's attending this status conference. My name is Will Yamamoto. I represent PWS in this matter. Here on behalf of PWS today is Eva Liu, Norman Kwan, Chuck Loy, and Ling Zhang. And forgive me if I'm missing anybody, but I think that makes up the PWS team. Also, in addition, we've asked the system operator, Alan Fukamizu, to also be present during the status conference to the extent the Commission has any questions about the current operational status of the facility. So I will begin by addressing the first point, PWS's current financial health and operational status. So over the last 5 years, PWS has spent a significant amount of money to operate this facility. As PWS has provided via responses to information requests as well as other filings, PWS made an initial commitment to the PUC back during the change of control that allowed PWS to operate this utility. And the initial commitment was $520,000. And PWS agreed that for the first 3 years of its operations, it would not increase rates. And these are the years 2020, 2021, and 2022. Subsequent to that, PWS also was able to get a loan from BSB, which is an affiliate company. It's not a direct affiliate of PWS, but one individual, Eva Liu, is owner of the entity that owns PWS, and she is also a member, one of the, I believe, three members of BSB. And so BSB agreed to loan $750,000 to PWS. And my understanding is the funds from that $750,000 loan have since been used up. Subsequent to that, PWS had indicated the need to request a temporary rate increase back in February of this year. And shortly following a status conference with the Public Utilities Commission, was able to get an additional loan from BSB in the amount of $65,000 and pledged to use this money to allow operations to continue while this temporary rate proceeding was pending. And that $65,000 as of today, based on information that I received from PWS, has all been spent. And there is currently no more money according to PWS. And if you'd like to verify that, I also have the accountant Ling Zhang on the line as well, and Eva Liu to verify that. And my understanding is that as of today, PWS still has approximately $103,000 in 2005 incurred unpaid liabilities. And the hope is that these invoices can be paid upon the approval of a temporary rate increase, given that these are expenses that were incurred this year and are part of the temporary rate increase funds that we are requesting. In total, in terms of the amount of monies expended to date on operating the facility since PWS, the current ownership, took over, they have spent approximately $1.3 million on this facility to keep these operations going. And my understanding is they're simply out of money. As of April 30, PWS essentially had no more funds, as we indicated in our filing of last week. And PWS hopes that the temporary rate increase is approved so it may continue operations and pay its financial obligations. Did you want me to stop here and field any questions regarding number one, or move on to number two?
You can continue on with number two.
Okay, thank you. Item number two, PWS's plans, including its willingness and ability to continue providing water and wastewater utility services. So PWS is willing to continue operating the utility if the PUC grants PWS the necessary funding to continue its operations. Unfortunately, the primary thing preventing PWS from continuing to operate is simply funding, not a lack of desire. So my understanding is from ownership of PWS that they do want to continue operating the facility, and they do feel like they do have an obligation to ratepayers, but they are simply out of money. PWS is not opposed to having a receiver, assuming that additional rates are approved to cover the cost of having a receiver. On item number three, with respect to any next steps needed for a long-term solution, PWS wanted to outline some of the steps it took to explore other alternatives for a long-term solution. And PWS has contacted the two main water companies in Hawaii. Number one is Hawaii Water Service Company, which is a subsidiary of California Water Service Group, as well as number two, Hawaii American Water Company, which is a subsidiary of American Water Company. A representative of PWS reached out with a detailed message describing PWS's situation to Hawaii Water Service Company specifically General Manager Jeffrey Folks, 3 times, most recently May 1st, 2025, but to date has still not received a return call or message from Hawaii Water Service Company. With respect to Hawaii American Water Company, PWS did receive feedback, and after a lengthy discussion, and Hawaii American Water Company said that the size of this particular utility was just too small. They explained that they typically look to acquire utilities with a size of at least 1,000 customers or more, and so that was the feedback PWS received from Hawaii American Water Company. In addition, PWS spoke with Joy Gannon of RCAC, and she said that the condition of the facility would likely be a problem regarding the transfer of the utility from private ownership to a nonprofit community owned utility. She had indicated monies need to be raised for a preliminary engineering report, an environmental report, and that there are application fees to apply for the funding. Also, a potential source of funding assistance for a PER, preliminary engineering report, has been identified, and transitioning from a private utility to a community-based nonprofit could be pursued if the above items could be met. In addition, PWS also contacted Punaluʻu Water Incorporated based on comments received from, I believe, the PUC through its orders. And we understand that Punaluʻu Water Incorporated is a member-owned nonprofit organization. A representative of PWS reached out to NWI and was informed that the NWI board would meet to discuss the authority to speak with PWS on May 20. So we're hopeful that they will continue discussions with PWS following their meeting on May 20. As suggested in the Colony 1 statement of position, I believe Colony 1 had suggested the possibility of creating a special improvement district, then dedicating the utility to the County Department of Water as an alternative. And PWS is open to exploring that alternative, thinks that could be a good idea. And then, of course, in terms of long-term prospects, there is out there the possibility of BSB continuing its development. And if it is successful, as we indicated to the PUC, initially there would be funds to make significant improvements to the utility, which would cost existing ratepayers little to no money for those improvements because they would primarily be funded by the development. But if that were not to happen, then PWS is only alternative is the above items mentioned, or potentially going through a general rate case request for more funding. And so those are the responses to the 3 items that was requested by the PUC. With respect to updates of the responses we provided last week to the PUC, the first is PWS's ability to continue administrative services in the event that the civil complaint against Black Sands Beach is not resolved and the property is assigned property assigned to BSB is foreclosed on. So just an update there. As of last week, PWS, when they inquired with BSB, they were told that an escrow account had been opened. As of today, PWS is informed by BSB that now there is money in that escrow account. So it's looking like the foreclosure will not be happening, given that the funding has gone into escrow at this point. With respect to the current balance of the $65,000 short-term loan from BSB and what expenses the loan has been used to cover since it was received, as of last week, we indicated that approximately half, about $33,000, had been actually spent, while 31,000 had actually been spent, while 33,000 were in the process of being dispersed. And as of today, my understanding from PWS is all those funds have been dispersed. Those checks have been cut, and the entirety of the $65,000 has been spent. The third point, PWS's understanding of its ability to obtain additional funding from BSB or any other entity. This status has not changed since last week's filing. Given PWS's current financial situation, PWS has indicated that it simply does not have the ability to obtain additional funding from BSB. It has reached out to BSB and requested additional funds, but BSB declined. And with respect to any other entity, I believe PWS believes that, given its zero balance bank account, it just does not have the ability to obtain current funding, especially given that they're currently losing money every single month. And then lastly, with respect to PWS's plans to continue operations if the proposed development of the land assigned to BSB is not approved, or additional repairs and maintenance expenses are incurred that exceed the remaining funding from the short-term loan, PWS's response from last week is still current today. That's all I have.
Mr. Yamamoto, just wanted to confirm. Sorry, Mr. Yamamoto, just wanted to confirm the numbers that so the 520,000 that PWS spent, that covers the years 2020 to 2022, correct? Or
Yes,
was it?
that's my understanding.
So it's in the aggregate versus per year.
That is correct, in the aggregate. So over that 3-year period, in excess of 520,000 was spent on the utility.
Okay, and then you've had no rate increases since then, since 2020, basically.
That is correct, Chair. No rate increase since 2020. In fact, no rate cases since the late 1970s.
Yeah. Okay. And that Punaluʻu Water Company, could you spell the name for me?
Yes. It's NUPU Okina U.
Okay.
Water Inc. Or NWI for short.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Yamamoto. That's all I have right now.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Mr. Yamamoto, I have a couple questions. Can you give me an update or the current status of BSB's proposed development and the likelihood that such development will be approved?
Commissioner, I'm afraid I'm not prepared to speak to that. I am not their counsel with respect to their development, but perhaps somebody else on the PWS team may be able to speak to that. Eva or Norman?
Have to answer?
Oh, hi, Eva.
Hi, I'm here, but
able to provide?
Lin 你在吗？
I'm sorry, commissioners. I think Eva Liu requires some help with an interpreter. And we have Ling Zhang, who's also on the PWS team. She's the accountant, but she can also interpret as well.
That's fine. Ms. Liu, go ahead.
If I need to answer, so Norman, can you help me to answer? Is Norman?
Staff, can we unmute Norman?
Yeah, right now we're going through a contested case hearing, so we don't know.
Thank you, Norman.
if-
Go ahead.
Start my video. Okay. Sorry about that. Right now we're going to a contested case hearing, and we don't know exactly what the dates are. That's really about the best we can say right now.
Has contested case hearing proceedings begun, or is it just an
No,
initial
they have
process?
not begun. Yeah, we're
Okay.
waiting for the county to actually set up the requirements to get it.
Who's representing the company on the land use proceedings?
Lincoln,
I'm sorry, who?
Lincoln Ishida.
Oh, Lincoln Nishida. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and Lincoln has not given you folks, sorry, Mr. Ishida has not given you folks a indication of when a hearing will be set.
No, we don't know right now.
Okay. Is there a time frame that the commission must issue a decision, or one way or the other?
Don't know. We're basically waiting for the county to give us word.
Okay, so please let Lin can speak, but because right now he is mute, so he can speak. So I need her translate for me about this. Lin, hello.
Staff, can we?
Take that up.
Lin is she
Lin-
talked to me.
Ling has to unmute herself. There we go.
Hi, Lin. Are you here? She called me. She's cannot speak. The reason is
So-
be mute. Okay,
Yeah,
so
she needs to unmute herself. So we allowed her to unmute herself. So somewhere on her computer, there should be a mute.
okay, so I will
somewhere on
try.
screen.
Okay, can I try to speak a little bit?
Yes.
So yeah, for the PWS, from beginning we know this need to spend a lot of money, but that's the even 3 years ago that when Aka engineer quit. So we already know. We also asked the county help and also do finding the solution. So past 5 years, we want to sell we want to find the other company can work with the very difficult to financial problem. So we try our best, but one is the solution is the Punaluʻu. If we had the developer plan, we already said we can put the money in, but the most is difficult is only one HOA association. That's the contest case. They are against the project. So right now we even don't have the plan for this plan, the developer plan, because so complicated. We almost give up. So right now we cannot find a money solution. So that's what I want to explain, because the 3 contest case, mostly the people come from Colony 1, the user. So that's really, really, very interesting. They don't have the money, they don't have the plan B, but against the our plan for how to help PWS. So right now, for the developer side, we lose interest in to keep continue. That's the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
Okay, I have some other questions. I'm not sure if you or Norman is the best person to answer these. Can I go to the foreclosure issue? I understand from your attorney, Mr. Yamamoto, that funds have gone into an escrow account. Is the funds that are in the escrow account enough to pay off the loan in total, or how much balance is owed on the mortgage or the loan?
So we for the contract, so when we buy the land, that's the we allow to developer. And then why we set up the payment schedule. So when we have the SMA 3 years something, we will pay at the end the money. But right now we don't have any plan for interesting to continue to run this. That means we think about we still can talk with the lender. But right now we already made the decision, pay all the money. So ESCO still working on that. So, but I think is that's we are our own money. Just need to short time because money need to take time to prepare. But no any question, we will pay all the money out. That's my answer. Thank you, Honor.
Okay. Does the utility have any, I guess, plans to secure ownership of the property since its utility sits or its property sits on that particular piece of property in question? Is there any, go ahead, Will.
Yeah, perhaps I can answer this in part. Based on my understanding, PWS currently has an easement from BSB. So given that BSB is the owner of the entire development, all the land, including the land under which PWS sits, BSB had agreed to provide an easement to PWS, which they executed several years ago. And that allows PWS to operate on the land currently. Now, with respect to a foreclosure, I'm not a foreclosure counsel, and I'm not sure what actually happens in the course of a foreclosure and whether all the rights BSB obtained, from the prior owner winds back and gets unwound, and what happens there. But I know that PWS currently has an easement.
What does the easement cover? Is it just the lines or is it the actual facilities like the treatment plants and the water facilities?
I haven't looked at the specific language. My understanding is at a minimum, it covers the utility and the property under which the utility sits, and may also include some accessory units such as hydrants and things of that nature.
For the actual facilities upon which, the wastewater facility and the water facility, why wasn't a lease granted versus a easement? Easement is very unusual for a facility of that size. Usually a lease is granted. So why wasn't this explored?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I'm not real estate counsel for PWS. I think at the time they did the transaction, they had real estate counsel that advised them as to how to go about doing that.
Okay, so
do you
is
know?
this land court property? Is this land court property or regular property?
I don't know. Norman, are you aware?
No, I don't.
Can you get back to me on that? Well,
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I believe Kathy Garson represented PWS in the transaction.
okay, a couple more questions. If you and Norman can answer. At the time that PWS, acquired the property and the utility, there was a memo by the previous operator on some improvements that needed to be made. Did PWS make any efforts to address the deficiencies in that memo that were identified in that memo?
Norman, I believe that's a
Yeah.
question for you.
What we did was we actually wrote a piece of that in one of the IRs there. But yeah, we were trying to, because of the money situation, we've been trying to incrementally do the changes. The first change that we did actually was to look for a backup system for the electrical. So we did all of that. We changed most of the water, the electrical systems in all the different parts, the pump station, the treatment plant, and the wells. From there, what we did was we moved over to try and look at the actual treatment plant itself. There was a problem with the clarifier, so we had to fix the clarifier, and then the turbine aerator we had to put in a brand new one. And we've been subsequently actually doing new pumps for the pump station. So yeah, we've been trying to do it within the monies that we have, and still keep the operations going. And that's really the problem, because we have it's a twofold problem. Number one, you have a problem with operations of getting monies for operations. That's where the main part of the dollars have been going. The long-term solution, obviously, it's a problem, because it was built in the 1970s. So you don't have that ability to have new construction there. So we've been struggling. I mean, I got to be frank with you, and just try to keeping the operations going, and trying to actually put together a good operations. That has been a struggle.
Mr. Kwan, have you, with respect to the remaining improvements that need to be made as identified in that memo, have you priced it out? Do you have an idea of all the cost that would be needed
The
to
one
address
that we for the new, yeah,
for everything
okay.
else that you need to address in
Yeah,
identified in the memo?
yeah, we're fine with most of the elements there, except maybe for the hydrants. Hydrants were done as a budget item, so we didn't get the exact cost for that. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go back and actually get real bids on that to be sure that we can do it for that amount. And that was for 160,500. One of the things we need to do there is try to figure out what the isolation valves are going to do, but we don't have the engineering right now, so we need to be able to get that together. But what we thought was, the idea there was to keep it as a priority item for obvious reasons. We want to be sure that there's sufficient fire hydrants and firefighting facilities there.
Have you thought about engaging an engineer to do a comprehensive assessment of both the water and wastewater operations to get an idea of the total cost?
Yeah, I mean, we need to do that
So you
for
haven't
the
done,
existing situation.
you haven't done it
For the
yet?
existing situation. But
Yeah,
no,
okay.
not for the existing situation. We've done it for the whole thing, which is a completely different situation there.
Okay.
For the whole project, which is based on 200 to an additional 200 rooms. So we have those numbers there, but we need somebody to actually look and see what we can do now and try to figure out what that cost is going to be. So that's going to be, it's going to be a cost that we're going to have to deal with.
Okay.
We don't have a number.
Do you know how much an engineer would cost to get you that type of report?
I would think probably in the neighborhood of about $40,000 to $50,000 to do a whole PER on that.
Okay.
It's just a cost, estimate.
Okay. It was represented that PWS obtained a series of loans from BSB. Does you folks understand that those loans need to be paid out directly from PWS and not recoverable from the general rate base, correct?
I can't address any of the financial matters. You're gonna have to ask Eva on that.
Okay. I'm just double checking, because did you folks get any approvals from the commission for those loans?
I don't know.
Assuming
believe
that, you go ahead, Mr.
I can
Yamamoto.
comment on that. So with respect to the $750,000 loan, my understanding is that PWS did not seek PUC approval prior to obtaining that loan. We had indicated that in prior filings that there was no approval that had been sought or obtained for the $750,000 loan. With respect to the $65,000 short-term loan, that was in connection with this temporary rate increase. It was a loan for less than a year, and I believe no formal request for approval was made for that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yamamoto. Mr. Yamamoto, you indicated earlier that $65,000 has been spent out. Do you know if any of that money was used to pay the amounts owing to its existing contractor for past services?
My understanding.
Sorry, the operator.
Yeah, so the current operator is Alan Fukamizu, Big Island Water and Sanitation. And my understanding from the PWS accountant, Ling Zong, is that monies from the $65,000 were used to pay Big Island Water and Sanitation. As to the specific months, I don't have anything before me that lets me know the specific months, but perhaps Ling Zong could provide more detail. Ling, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So for the short-term $65,000 loan, we used pay Big Island Sanitation LLC, which is Allen's services from January to April, which is about $7,300 per month. For 4 months, the rest of some of the funds pays for the power bill, which is average $6,000 per month.
But that's the energy bill. What about,
Energy bill, yes.
okay, what about money needed to pay the contractor or the operator for their services?
The contractor operator, Big Island Sanitation, we paid January to April, 4 months of services. And we paid the power bill, keep the facility running. This is the majority funds was spent on the operation side.
Okay. And did you get an indication from the operator that they will continue providing service, or do you have backup plans in case they are not going to continue to provide service?
I think they are willing to continue operate, but the challenge part is the payment side. If we cannot pay them properly, I don't know, if you provide the services that they did not get paid on time, that will be a challenge for them.
So assuming that we give a TRI, that you folks will be able to continue paying the operator. Is that correct?
Yes. If we have the fund, pay them on time, they're willing to continuing the operation of the PWS.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Angelo, did you have any questions for PWS?
Yeah, we just had a couple. There was a fire break in the area, right? I believe that's around the Colony One. Has that been maintained? Has been any over the years? Has there been any activities done to maintain that fire break recently?
I'm not familiar with the fire break. Norman, do you know anything about that?
The fire break has been cleaned up, but recently, because of the funding, I'm not sure exactly when the last time was when it was last done. But it was cleared out. And, Ling, do you know approximately when that was?
No,
Last year sometime?
last year I forgot the
No.
date, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to clean that whole area out between just along the roadside. So that took a while, and probably it was about last year. I don't know the exact date.
And how often historically was that fire break maintained?
It was cleaned up that one time, and it was
Just
it's a long road, so it had to be done. It had to be done in stages.
okay. And then I think there were some proposed changes to the tariff on removing the 6-inch reference to the 6-inch service and 8-inch service lines. Can you talk about that? Was PWS or any of their affiliates ever receiving service from 6-inch or 8-inch lines?
Not clear to me exactly what that means. Alan, do you know what's happening? Alan,
As far as 6 or 8 inch lines go,
Yes.
to my knowledge, I don't think we currently use 6 or 8 inch lines.
Okay. And
I think they're only been used for the I'm assuming golf course irrigation or any heavy irrigation.
and those are not currently being used for anything at the moment. I'm just confirming that.
Yeah, to my knowledge, no. Yeah, everything I've
Okay.
read and yeah. So
Okay, I didn't have any further questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Angelo. Is this where we are? Yeah. All right. So we'll turn to the next item on the agenda, and it's the consumer advocates recommendations. So Mr. Angelo, please proceed with your statement regarding the recommendations made in the Consumer Advocate Statement of Position filed on April 21st, 2025, including your recommendation that the Commission appoint a receiver pursuant to HRS Section 269-14.5. We'll have you present those recommendations. Thanks. Mike, you're muted.
Thank you, Chair Sunshin, Commissioner Kwei, members of the commission, members of the community. I guess first and foremost, what I want to say is that our primary concern is the health and safety of the utility customers of PWS. And our recommendation, first and foremost, is that a receiver be appointed. And a receiver is an entity that can come in and take, at least for a temporary time, take over the operations of the utility, of the water and wastewater utility. And our recommendation is based on what we view is a history of insufficient upkeep of the system, but more so the ongoing risk to customers of this land deal and whether and to what extent that is successful and additional funding can be maintained. We've heard today and through the course of various responses that there is a considerable amount of maintenance that needs to happen on this system. We've heard that there is not an ability to receive additional funding to support this system if this land deal does not go through. So we see that as an ongoing risk to customers. We see the fact that things like the fire hydrants have not been sufficiently maintained, as a lack of commitment to maintaining sufficient public, prioritizing the public safety, and the ongoing risk of this foreclosure. We don't have visibility necessarily onto the day-to-day aspects of that and the legal ramifications if that foreclosure was to proceed, and what would happen. What is the risk to the operations of the utility? We have verbal commitments, but we don't know and don't have enough visibility to see whether to what extent operations would continue. So based on those and several other factors, we're recommending receivership. We also are not objecting to a temporary rate increase based on an adjusted amount because we do see the need for sufficient funding to maintain operations of the utility, subject to certain ongoing reporting, so that there is sufficient transparency, so that the customers and the community is aware that that funding is being used for the directly for the operations of PWS.
Is that it, Mr. Angelo?
Yes, yes, thank you.
That would, we do have some questions, Kai,
Okay.
but let me start. Right, you're advocating, or you're recommending two things, right? It's not opposed to the temporary rate increase, but then also look into taking PWS into receivership, right? Is there an order, right? That kind and like, because I kind of see if you grant one thing, right, you don't necessarily need to do the next thing. Right? So is
Sure.
there an order that you're thinking, or how do both recommendations work together?
Work together? Well, whoever takes over is going to have something in place to ensure that there's funding available to ensure that services continue, so that BWAS can continue to be paid, et cetera, those types of operational things. So conceivably, the temporary rate increase could be granted first, and I think or in parallel. And I think regardless, the receiver who comes in will have the ability to set rates, at least as I understand it, under the statute. And I think having something at least in place so that they can proceed would be helpful, or it could happen in either order, to be honest with you. But I think the receiver, the most critical aspect is appointing a receiver that the community has trust in and is independent.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Angelo, wouldn't the receiver be paid out of the funds that are the TRI that we grant PWS?
Yes, that's correct.
So some of those funds would basically be used for additional layer of management, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And we don't know how much this receiver could
Cost. That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. So you acknowledge that there is a risk that whatever some of these funds that could go to help fund some of the improvements or operations might be diverted for administrative services.
I do see that as a risk. I also see the protection element of having someone who has the experience with utility operations to be able to keep an eye and monitor these legal aspects that are going on, like with the foreclosure agreement. It would be best suited to respond to if there was foreclosure, or if there was no land deal, would be best suited to respond to any adverse outcomes along those lines.
Okay. You're basically looking for essentially an advocate in the case something on the legal side happens, that the receiver can advocate.
Yes, and someone that can continue operations on a day-to-day basis in case anything, any of the operations of the system are interrupted because of unforeseen circumstances, like equipment breaking or things along those lines.
Let's kind of go along the lines of the receiver question. What steps do you believe are necessary for the commission to appoint a receiver under HRS section 14.5, including what type of process might be involved? And how long do you think that process would take? You have any idea?
I don't have an estimate because it's, it's something that hasn't been undertaken before. I would think there would need to be a vetting of potential receivers. And I would want, from the advocacy side, the community to be able to weigh in on who was the most appropriate receiver.
So we're not talking about something that could occur overnight, correct?
Correct. But given that's correct. And the concern is, in raising this issue, is that given that it's not something that could occur overnight, it'd be better suited to think through the steps that need to occur now, as opposed to being in case there was a situation where it had to happen quickly.
Okay. So possible vetting scenarios, possible RFPs, interviews, community outreach, 6 to 9 months?
Roughly.
Okay. Have you had discussions regarding this course of action with PWS?
Not to my knowledge, not directly regarding receivership. And I think, yeah, we have not.
Okay. Since obviously receivership would directly impact PWS, are you interested in continuing those discussions with PWS?
Yes.
Thank you. Who do you believe, or what do you believe would be a qualified and interested entity or individual to serve as a receiver for PWS? Given the fact that we just heard testimony from Mr. Yamamoto that they reached out and there were no takers.
A receiver in terms of I guess two different things, right? In terms of a receiver, it would an attorney with experience in water, wastewater regulation, together with an operator, and there is an existing operator who's been working on that system. In the interim, ultimately, the end would be they would need a buyer for the system. And I think the most challenging part at the moment is finding that buyer. So you've heard from PWS that two of the large companies that own and operate water, wastewater systems are not currently interested in purchasing that. So that doesn't leave a whole lot of alternatives other from county operations and or community, the community buying the system and owning and operating the system, or the other municipal district that I guess that falls into that Mr. Silva of Colony One mentioned, but I think that falls into the county ownership and operation.
Okay, can we back up a little bit? You mentioned
Sure.
basically the receiver would be an attorney or a legal advisor. Is that what
That was
you're
a thought.
envisioning? Okay,
That was one thought, right?
not necessarily a water waste management company that regularly manages these type of utilities.
There would need to be involved for sure. A company that was, but the individual or it could be an attorney and or accountant or someone who has the ability to be able to manage the financial operations of the company. But presumably, it would be an attorney, most likely. Yes.
Okay. I have no other questions, Chair.
Do you have any closing? Okay, yes, commission will take this all under advisement. I think we do want to come to some resolution for this particular system. And like you heard, right? No matter, the most pressing would be, right, what to do with the TRI, right? And in the long term, because right, the TRI as I see it and what I've heard today, right, that's not sustainable either, right? That's gonna just keep us, right, on it's a Band-Aid approach to this, right? We got to come to the long-term solution on what we do. And I know it's complex. It's, it's connected to other approvals that the company or the parent company is trying to obtain. And that's a process there that the PUC does not control. Right? That's a whole different process altogether. And then we have, the possibility of receivership, which has not been done before, right? That's kind of like new ground, if you will, territory. And so, but we do acknowledge, right, that that PwC is open to that. It's just how do we get that in some timely manner, right? And not to even speak about the smooth transition on how that actually would happen. So I think for PWS, Mr. Yamamoto, if you can keep updating us in case there's any changes or the like, just keep us in the loop on what's going on, and that goes for others, others that are affiliated with PWS, right? If you hear something, Mr. Kwan, if you hear anything on what's happening on the land use side, please let us know. Mr. Fukumitsu, you're currently operating it, and I know you're in a tight position as well. So, we expect you guys to keep updating us as far as CLIME. And like I said, this will take some time, but we do want to come to a solution for the system there and for the customers of PWS. So with that, we'll conclude the status conference for docket number 2025-0167. We'll take everything under advisement. We do anticipate that this proceeding will conclude with the Commission's issuance of its written decision on the request for a temporary rate increase. So thank you all for your attendance and participation today. We will stand adjourned for this matter. Thank you.
Can I force how to continue? That's my question. I really, is we already spent all the money for for take care of the committee. We need somebody really, continue from May 1st. You know that. So, well, can you ask them?
Yeah, well, let me just answer that, right? We're gonna take everything under advisement. We are aware, right, that that PWS has basically no money left as of April 30th, and right, in a way that just makes our decision on the TRI more pressing, right? Because we do need to figure out a way how to continue those services. From what I heard today, and I didn't hear otherwise, unless somebody wants to tell us now, right? Current operator will continue to at least operate the system, and we're taking that into account as we get to our decision. So, right, I think
I'd like to make a statement regarding that.
sure.
Alan Fukumitsu. I can continue operating if I'm continue to be paid. That is in question. So just to let that be known,
Okay.
because I can't continue to operate this system with money out of my pocket, chemicals, lab fees, everything else.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone.